this is Cito, and you're listening to The Gareth Nelson Show.
Okay, you're locked into The Gareth Nelson Show, and I'm joined by the fantastic, the phenomenal Cito from Wonderboom. This guy is a South African music legend, literally. Cito, welcome to the studio.
Wow, thank you for the great introduction.
It's such a privilege to have you there. I'm
Cool.
awestruck, I must be honest, because
Cool.
I mean, I remember growing up with your guys' music all these years, so it's fantastic to have you finally in the studio.
Sweet, thanks for having me, man.
Okay, so I know you were born in Los Angeles and grew up in New York City.
Yeah.
How did you get started into music?
Well, I think it's always been in the blood. Both my parents are musicians. My father plays piano and organ. My mother plays guitar. She's Puerto Rican, so she does the whole Spanish guitar, Puerto Rican folk style of performing. And she also plays accordion. So it's always been in our family. I was brought up with gospel. That was the only music I really listened to, gospel and classical music and like Puerto Rican folk music. And as I grew older, I started to get into like Christian rock, and then U2 were like my window drug band into worldly music.
Yes.
And it was okay because 3/4 of them were like Christian.
Yes.
And so I would listen to them to death, and then from there I got into alternative music. I liked all the Bauhaus and Joy Division and Depeche Mode and all the darker stuff, and then obviously getting into the classics like The Doors and all that kind of thing.
Fantastic.
But I only started really taking it up. Bass guitar was my first instrument, and I joined a band with a bunch of friends of mine from school when I was like 14 or something. And then I started to take it seriously from when I was about 15. I started doing like bass lessons and stuff, and I had this wonderful teacher who not only showed me how to play bass, how to read music, how to read music for other instruments like drums and guitar and stuff like that. He showed me how to write songs.
Yes.
He showed me so much, and I actually owe him so much. But I really started to take it seriously from when I was about 15, 16. And then, of course, my school marks went down the drain. I left school early in Standard 9, or what would you call it?
Grade 11.
Grade 11,
Grade 11, yeah.
And I went to like a technical college, thought I could do engineering, and dropped out of that. And I just started working full time as a photographer because that was my other love.
Passion. Yeah.
But then, I started playing pro from when I was about 17. I was in a soul band called Heart and Soul, where I was playing bass. And then the sort of bite was happening. I just wanted to sing again. Because I was messing around in school and stuff, but I never took it seriously. And then I started up rock bands from that. So, yeah, I would say my teenage years is when it really started for me.
When the calling kicked in. Yeah. And how did you find like making the move from America rather to South Africa? And I mean, do you go back often to the States or?
I don't go very often. I was there almost 2 years ago, and I hadn't been there for like 20-something years.
Really?
Time flies,
Yeah.
and South Africa's become my home. But at the time when we came out, I was about 14 when we moved here, and it was very surreal. I mean, I was this New Yorker kid in his sort of gospel world. My parents were like missionaries at the time, which is why we moved to South Africa.
Okay.
And I made friends, and I made some really cool friends while I was here. And obviously at the school, everybody was making a fuss that I was from the States, and I was really just a dork, and a sort of like a big fish in a little pond kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I made some really cool friends, and I learned a lot. I think those years are quite formative with the things that bring about desire for music and passion and stuff like that. So. It was a great. I just fell in love with this place. I loved South Africa. I love the people across the whole demographic. I just find the people in general are just so naturally warm and friendly and down to earth, and very embracing, very welcoming. But yeah, I mean that's how I experienced South Africa when I first came here.
It is a special country, isn't it? I mean, there's so much to it, isn't there?
Absolutely, and of course, there's the natural beauty as well, and wildlife, and when you're raised in a city like New York, in Queens, you know, as much as it's all charming now, and I go back there and it's like, oh, cool, you know, it's reminiscing and everything else and nostalgic. You really realize what this country has, you know, with regards to its natural beauty and the different kinds of beauty and terrain and space. I really don't get that claustrophobic feeling like you get over there.
Yeah.
You know?
And that big city vibe, as it were.
Yeah.
And then tell me about Wonderboom. I mean, how did you guys get started? How did you meet, the name, etc.?
Okay, so I was in a band called Moonchild after I'd left the soul band and started this sort of gothic rock kind of thing. And we weren't really going anywhere. And we shared a gig at a place called Tattoos in Ramburg with a band called the Eight-Legged Groove Machine. Mm-hmm. And they totally blew me away. Mm. They were wild, they were funky, they had this really cool rocking vibe. Martin on guitar and Wade on bass, they were so infectious, you know, their personalities on stage. And, you know, we met and we had some similar tastes and lots of stuff. And we exchanged numbers, and then about a year down the line, I needed a band and they needed a vocalist. So I joined the Eight-Legged Groove Machine, and we did that for a couple of years. We toured around South Africa and did like Rustlers and things like that. Went to Cape Town and Knysna. And very wild days. We used to be quite crazy. We had this indie sort of funk vibe about us, and we would get dressed up for every gig into like different themes. Sometimes it would be like rugby outfits or women's costume, you know, bathing costumes, or Kiss, or you know, things. It would just be crazy, yeah. So the you know, these crazy, just to make up for our sort of bad playing or whatever.
Yeah.
But then the drummer of the Electric Pedals, which were already quite an established band, and the manager approached us to form a super group because they had the opening support slot for Simple Minds when they came out to South Africa.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they sort of met us in this sort of dubious meeting room in Bromfontein at a hotel. I think it was Hotel Devonshire or something like that. And we had these private meetings about we had to get rid of our drummer, and they were going to get rid of their singer. Mm-hmm. And we did it. We hooked up. We were called the Electric Pedal Groove Machine, which is the cuckest name ever. But
I disagree. It's different. It's original.
Yeah. So that was like in 95, in September 95. And then we had to go. We sort of started up here. Like our second live performance was on the Dolly Tambo show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
On TV.
Yes.
And then it was Simple Minds, Kings Park Stadium. That was our third gig.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then we toured with them around the country, and it was really cool. But then from there, we just had to start at the bottom again and get to know each other, and because we were playing each other's music, so half of the repertoire was Eight-Legged Groove Machine and the other half was Electric Pedals. And it was quite, I think the thing that sort of made it work was our live performance, but when it came down to it, we had to find our identity. So this sort of happened towards the end of 95. We were touring a lot. We were, you know, lots of sort of humbling gigs and experiences, and you know, great stories. But then coming back from Cape Town, driving up the N1, we just outside a town called Kroonstad in the Free State. There's a sign that says Wonderboom.
Yes.
So I was like, Wonderboom, and Martin was like, no, that's Wonderboom. So we didn't decide there and then. We actually had a whole meeting about what we were going to call ourselves in the beginning of 96. And we had a whole list of names. I've got that list still at home. You know, the different suggestions, Weed Eater and Credo, and you know, weird names like that. Yeah. And Wonderboom kind of just won hands down. It was just a good idea at the time. It was like bilingual. It's got all these different meanings, like spontaneous combustion and Tree of Life, and you know, and such. And yeah, we just ran with it, and February 96, Wonderboom was conceived.
Wow, it's amazing. I mean, it's definitely a name that sticks, doesn't it? I mean, it's synonymous with like South African rock music now, really.
Yeah, I think those that know us or knew us, it's definitely a household name in that sense.
Yeah.
But for those that didn't know us, they kind of wrote us off as an Afrikaans band or a metal band. Like we had like lots of feedback like that. We're always getting we always have new fans at gigs that would come up to us and say, we thought you were an Afrikaans band, or all these songs, we didn't know it was you guys, you know? We're still kind of dealing with that, but that's our name. So we're running with it.
Yeah. It is the name, yeah.
Thank you, Gareth.
Oh, hold on. Rourke, I'm just going to turn you up there.
Thank you very much for letting me interrupt. Wonderboom, was there anyone in the band that had been to the army in the 80s? Because
yes,
I was in Wonderboom.
Oh.
I did my second phase
Pretoria.
and third phase in Wonderboom. Yeah.
In Pretoria or by Kroonstad?
No,
In
Pretoria, yeah.
Danny, the drummer,
Yeah?
he was in the army, yeah.
Was he?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just interesting. When I first heard the name, I was like, it had bad memories for me. You
See,
know what I
see
mean?
what I mean? There's like things like that we...
You had to be aware of, yeah.
Yeah, we had to be aware of. Or
Yeah.
they were made. We were made aware of. But
Well, you've made Wonderboom a very happy place for me, you
that's
guys,
cool.
because you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Gareth, for letting me chip in. I couldn't help myself, sorry.
Of course, right. And then tell me about the brand new album that you released, Rising Sun. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant, by the way. But tell me
Thank
about
you.
what inspired it, the songwriting behind it, etc.
Well, I mean, it's quite a long story, but we hadn't released anything for 7 years. The Automatic Shuffle was released at the end of 2010.
Yes.
And that had Gareth McLeod on drums,
yes.
who was our second drummer. And then he passed away. That was like 5 years ago, actually. Last week, we were reminded 5 years ago he passed away on his motorbike. But during this whole between that album and this album, we were sort of writing new stuff, but nothing was really sticking. And since John O'Bell joined on drums in 2013, we were kind of like starting over again. So I think the big thing for us was just getting that chemistry right. Because we're essentially a live band, we're a performance band. We're not really a studio band, or we haven't been really a studio band. I don't think. And so through the couple of years of gigging and getting to know each other and getting that sort of dynamic and chemistry right, then the songs started to come. And we had a couple of songs at the beginning of 2016. And we had written a whole bunch of songs, and we made a deadline for October 2016 to release the album. As we approached October, we realized that we weren't really happy with the songs, the main body of songs. They were quite disjointed and not quite complementary and very incohesive. And so we just decided, you know what, it's been 7 years. Let's stop doing things at half measures and half baked and all that, and let's just take our time with this album and let's put out something that we're really proud of.
Yes.
So from about October 2016 till about a year later, Martin, the guitarist, I've been writing songs with him for 23 years or whatever,
Wow.
24 years. He would come around to my studio about 3 to 4 days a week for about 3 to 4 hours a day. And we just sit there writing, recording, trying new things. As we're busy recording new things or making mix downs, a new riff would come up and we'd quickly open up a new project and capture that.
Yep.
And then I would dig something up that I thought would be cool for my solo vibe and present it to the band. And then we'd workshop it in the rehearsal studio as well. Yep. So that whole process basically took us about a year and a half to get to the songs that we were really happy with. We chucked quite a lot away.
Yeah.
There are songs like right to the very end that we thought we could still include, but listening to these songs in context of the other songs, we just had to be ruthless and say, no, that's not happening. Maybe we could save it for something else,
Yes.
a movie
Future
sync
project,
or whatever. So they're not completely disregarded, but they're just set aside. For Rising Sun, we kind of felt that we we wanted to do the album that we've always wanted to do, something that we personally would love to listen to ourselves. And especially when it comes down to production and mixing. And it's the first time that we've ever been this meticulous and this involved. We would usually commission a producer to handle the whole process. And I would say 50% of the time we weren't quite satisfied. And then there's a lot of recordings that we've done in the past that I just completely cringe at. I'm like, oh my God.
That's always the case, isn't it? I mean, as a musician, you always look back and say, oh, I could have done that better.
I mean, the stuff I was doing with my voice was just stupid. It was only when I started to do musical theater back in 2006 that I started to really stop hiding behind the band and embrace the vocals and
become a lead man,
become a vocalist, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a whole journey of stuff. But Rising Sun is basically, it's weird because when you're putting it all together, you don't realize the cohesive story that you're putting together. But when the tracks are all finished, ready mixed and ready to go, mastered and everything, and you start putting the track listing together, you realize that the whole sum of the parts kind of thing, that it actually is, without knowing, we've compiled a beautiful movie.
So it tells a story.
That captures a story. You know?
Well, it's a brilliant album. I'm really enjoying it myself, and I know the listeners are too. You spoke about musical theatre there. I mean, I had the pleasure of watching you play Jesus Christ in Jesus Christ Superstar, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Jesus. I mean, that is a particularly hard role to perform. How did you get into that, and how did you get into musical theatre, and how do you find it different from playing in a rock band?
I was approached at the end of 2005 by an actor friend of mine whose agent told him that the production company, Peter Terrine Productions, were struggling to find Jesus, and I've kind of obviously acknowledged musical theatre, but I never got into it. Like, I used to work at CD shops and stuff like that, and you'd listen to the soundtracks of these musical theatre pieces, and I would never really quite get into it. I never understood this whole sort of singing dialogue and stuff like that. It was quite silly for me, and there's very few musicals that I actually acknowledged and liked, but. When he told me about it, and I did a bit of research, and he said, "Listen, just give it a shot. I think you've got the right vocal range for it. Maybe it's quite a commitment." So I almost didn't audition because I kind of got scared at the commitment of writing off 6 months of your life where you can't gig, you can't do anything.
Yes, and every night as well.
Every night, yeah. I mean, I wasn't afraid of the actual performances, but it was more like stopping Wonderboom for such a long time.
Yes.
But anyway, a friend of mine, close friend of mine, said, just audition, see how it goes, And I prepared the night before the audition part of the Gethsemane a song, just like the first sort of third. And it's the first time I've ever done anything like that. So went through to the audition, and Peter Terrine was there, and the director was there, the musical director was there, and they were just throwing songs at me that I didn't prepare for. They just gave me the music to read, and I would just kind of improv or whatever. And it was amazing because it was almost like the vocal score was written for my range. Yes. And although it's difficult at times, it felt very easy for me to sing with the emotion and passion and dynamic and all that kind of thing without actually really rehearsing or practicing it. And it was there and then that I realized that I've been taking my vocals a bit too much for granted, and that I should take it seriously and stop hiding behind the guitar and hiding behind the band and try and do something different with my voice and challenge myself. 2006 was the first sort of run in South Africa, and then we went to Korea, and we went to Greece, and then I did Chess in 2008. Yes. And then we did it again in JC Superstar again in 2011. I haven't done much musical theatre. I kind of feel that the role's got to really speak to me, and it's got to be worth me stopping, the rock and roll for a while, you know.
It's not something you want to go into full time, for example.
No, I mean, I'm in a very fortunate position that I can make those choices, you know. Sometimes you kick yourself for turning stuff down, like Evita and stuff like that, but I'd rather be in this position than be a actor struggling, trying to get work and ending up just doing ensemble work because you need to work, kind of thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but luckily I'm in a different position as a musician, you know.
Yeah, it's very tough for musical actors to do that and to find. I mean, they've got to go from one job to the next, and it always amazes me how they've got to get up and do it. No matter, the show must go on, as they say.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I watched you in both those versions, and I mean, you were brilliant. Cool. And I mean, this is a role that Ian Gillan from Deep Purple played, so that's the kind of vocal talent you have to have for it.
Thank you. Yeah, well, look, that's he was my sort of reference point.
Yes, absolutely.
So I mean, I knew nothing of it, and I would listen to those recordings, and I've managed since then. I've managed to check out quite a few musical productions. I got to meet Tim Rice and Michael Dixon and guys like that. And looking back, and it's not because I've done Jesus Christ Superstar, but I honestly think that particular piece is the best Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice
it's very powerful,
piece that they've ever done, compared to anything else that they've done. And there's beautiful things to get from all the other, Evita and all that kind of thing. There's different Phantom and all that. But there's just something quite solid about Jesus Christ Superstar from the beginning to the end.
It
the
is,
song choices, the way they wrote those songs, the way they cast the roles of the like the different vocal.
Yes, it was a real rock opera, isn't it? I mean, it's a real rock musical.
And then of course there's that whole thing, the whole rock thing, and being expressive and what Jesus sort of represents.
Yes,
and especially in those days, the 60s and 70s and all that. But yeah, very fortunate to have been in that position, and it'll always be a big part of my heart.
Well, you were absolutely brilliant, I must say.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to have a little break here. We'll be back shortly, but I'm going to play in the meantime a solo song that you've done called Aria. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So have a listen to this one. We'll chat more to Cito after this.
Thank you.
You're locked into the Gareth Nelson Show, and I'm joined by the legend of South African music, Cito. He's in the studio with me today. Cito, I wanted to ask you now, you've got some side projects, obviously. Pronunciation, you have this El Cantante.
El Cantante, yes.
And then Absinthe, or Absinthe, as you say.
Well, it really doesn't matter. We kind of made up we accented the E, and it's sort of like tongue-in-cheek French, but none of us are French, and we're just trying to be like sophisticated.
Something different, yeah.
Something,
And I know you guys are playing tonight. Is that right?
Absinthe are playing tonight, yes.
Awesome.
So Absinthe is basically an indulgent side project that I've got with Paul Flynn from Sugar Drive. He's the lead singer of Sugar Drive, and it's all covers. It's basically, the bands and songs that have influenced us within our own bands. And we found that we have a similar taste in music, which is a lot of the alternative rock stuff, a lot of the Brit stuff as well, and we just rework it and we make it in a sort of Absinthe way with both of our vocals harmonizing, and it's like an acoustic sort of treatment.
Yes.
And the big part of the show of our show is our banter and what happens, the conversations that happen in between. But we're playing tonight at Amuse Cafe, which is in Linden. It's a very quaint venue. I think it's sold out tonight, but I think there's always room for one more. They've got
Is that an invite for me then?
Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome to be on my guest list. And they've got like a bar there, so you could sit at the bar or whatever. But the tables, I think, are all fully booked.
Oh, fantastic! So, guys, tonight at Amuse Cafe, in Linden. Please go and check that out. All right, I wanted to ask you about that song that I just played. Now, that's Aria. That's your solo work as well.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song, I must say.
Thank you.
Tell me more about that, please.
Well, I've been toying with doing solo recordings for a while, and I've done quite a few demos in the past. I've gone through different phases of my life with regards to the musical genre styles. But I hooked up with a songwriter, producer in LA. Her name is Erin Alden. And she and I had been working on songwriting via Skype.
Oh wow!
So we'd meet once a week via Skype, and she'd help me finish a lot of my songs that I'd started. Some songs we would write together. Aria is a song that I'd written, but actually no, she also helped me write that song
there you go.
lyrically, and it was quite an amazing process for me, because although I've got a great relationship with Martin as a songwriter, it was quite different tapping into, because those who know me will know that I'm actually quite a miserable, melancholic kind of dark person.
Yeah.
And the music that makes me happy is the dark stuff.
The more poignant music, yeah.
Yeah, like Radiohead and
I can definitely understand that.
You know, Depeche Mode and there's a local band called Medicine Boy, which I'm completely besotted with. I just can't stop listening to their music. And you know, I wanted to tap into that without having the pressure of the Wonderboom, the Wonderboom legacy that we've got. You know, a Wonderboom makes a lot of people happy, and a lot of our songs have got this sort of uplifting, sort of charismatic vibe about it, especially when you see us live. And I think a lot of my dark influences have come in with a few of our songs in the past in the recordings, but then what would happen is that they'd make it into the recordings, we try it live a couple of times, but it doesn't quite suit the rest of the set list, and we end up just, you know, disregarding them, or, you know, like never approaching them again. And I personally was getting a little bit frustrated in that respect. I mean, now it's different. Wonderboom, we pretty much do anything, but what was cool about the Cito thing is that I could really explore without any sort of expectations or any boundaries or any limits or any sort of context or reference to where I'm at with Wonderboom. And Aaron helped me tap into that with the songwriting, the lyric writing, and finishing the songs. There's no sort of there's no parameters or restrictions or anything.
Yes.
And then me personally as a musician, I love electronic music, but I also like a lot of the sort of classical influence that's come into my life from an early age. So me just playing and experimenting in studio with, you know, with all the MIDI stuff, all the programming and all that kind of thing.
Different sides of music almost,
Yeah. And it's, you know, and I'm not worried about how I'm going to perform it live or anything like that. It's purely studio driven. And then with, you know, having a couple of sort of virtuoso instrumentalists to feature on the tracks. Andre van Rensburg is a classical guitarist.
Yes.
He's based in Tokyo now, and he's one of these avant-garde musicians.
Yes.
He doesn't do the pop thing, doesn't do the rock thing even. So when I told him about my project, I was quite humbled by him accepting to do it, and he's been a beautiful influence in a lot of the songs that we've recorded so far. And then Waldo on violin, he's like this. He is a virtuoso, and he's one of the very few musicians in this country, violinists, that can play for the JPO, you know, read the music and all that, but he's not restricted to that. He can improvise, he can collaborate, and interpret, and he plays by ear, and he can really just slot in to any situation. I think tonight he's going to join us without even rehearsing with us. I sent him the set list, and he's like, "Yeah, if I'm in, I'll pull in." And he's done it a couple of times. He just jumps on stage and just joins in on the music, and it's just such a beautiful.
So
thing
naturally
to have.
talented, yeah.
So that's where we've been with the Cito sort of project. I was hoping to release in 2016, but then when the Wonderboom recording started, I found it hard to balance, to juggle between the two. I kind of felt like I was diluting either project, because like something I realized that with recording the Wonderboom album, Rising Sun, it needed 100% attention. And, you know, it means waking up in the morning and going into studio and, you know, working on it. And if something inspires you, you're not sort of distracted by other stuff, you know. I'm already distracted with a lot of the other work that I do when I do music direction for corporates and stuff like that, which is big money-paying kind of
it's
work.
the business, absolutely.
But so I've put the Cito recordings on hold. I've got an album's worth ready to go. I've just got to record them properly and produce them properly. I'm looking at going back to the States and continuing a lot of the recordings there.
Okay.
But we're picking up from where we left off. I spoke to Erin a couple of weeks ago, and she's been quite busy herself. But we're writing new tracks and recording as we're going. So that's something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Hopefully for the end of this year.
I'm going to nag you to do it, please.
Okay. Yeah,
you know I nag you to get you here. So.
Cool. Please do.
I wanted to ask you now about what do you think of the state of music in South Africa as we speak? I mean, do you feel that music is being supported enough? I know that a lot of artists I've spoken to say there's not enough live venues, for instance, in Johannesburg. You go from small to big. There's not a lot of backing, especially on big radio stations, etc. How do you feel about it?
Well, look, I think the state of music in South Africa is from a creative point of view, it's brilliant. The bands are really, really awesome.
I couldn't agree more.
In all genres. The frustration obviously is with terrestrial radio.
Yes.
That there's not enough for the genres that we're involved with. I mean, if we're honest about the demographic of South Africa and what they should be focusing on, rock is a very, very small portion of that.
Yeah, true.
And we've actually gotten away with so much since the 90s till recently. But, also rock is not flavor of the month at the moment. So there is going to be that frustration. A lot of the bands that might be frustrated are probably dealing with that, and if there's a market for it, if there's a support for it, then there will be more venues for it. Then there will be more demand for it on radio. So we're just in a funny place now within the industry. And, I, as much as I love this country and I think that, it's important for us to be on radio and it's important for us to reach to fellow South Africans, I think with the way technology has gone now, we can be based anywhere in the world and we've got access to an international market.
The world is small, really. I mean,
the world is quite small. The only thing about that, though, is that because we're not so isolated anymore, there's a lot more competition out there. So,
and almost anybody can go and produce an album at home now, basically.
So the standards are quite high at the moment, and that's what we got to contend with all the time is keeping the originality. Keeping the production standard to be quite up there.
Yes.
I found that there was a very funny stage between the 90s and now where there's lots of emulation. Like whatever's happening in the States is what's happening here. You find that a lot with hip-hop. You find that a lot with the metal scene.
Absolutely.
Metal is metal. It's kind of hard to make it African, I mean, you can, but...
I suppose so.
I think that those that do are the ones that are making something out of it, But if you look at bands like Congos, that are a really awesome rock band, they've got that African flavor.
They do.
And I don't know if it's the accordion or the way they stomp,
even the beats,
even the guitar work that they do in a lot of their stuff, that's sort of making them stand out. And I think that's the key, is the originality.
Yes.
If you sound like Nickelback, then you're not going to get anywhere because there's a million Nickelbacks in the States and Canada and even Europe.
Yes.
And I think that's the key, is to try and come up with something fresh so that you're appealing to, because you know what, the people that are coming to gigs now mostly are still the youth. And the youth are so exposed to so much that to do something that's been done, you're going to get a numb reaction from them. You're not going to get a fervent sort of, alluring or anything like that, So I think, to keep relevant, obviously keep writing and all that. I mean, if you look at AC/DC, they do what they do and they have been doing it for years.
Absolutely.
To be another AC/DC now it's kind of pointless, you know. So I think that's what we're dealing with is that originality and that freshness. And as long as you're being listened to and your music is being consumed by somebody, then there will be platforms for you to play at, festivals, venues, radio and all that kind of thing. So I'm not going to be one of those naysayers or one of those guys that says, music isn't what it used to be like, and we are
go back to the 60s a bit, Woodstock, etc.
Or I mean, even down to the Opikopi days, where there's still so much nostalgia and so much reminiscing about those days. But things were different then, we were a lot more isolated. We were still very sort of naive to what was happening in the music scene. So bands like the Nude Girls and Wonderboom and Sugar Drive and Squeal and bands like that were standing out because they were manifestations of where we were at. Nowadays, it's kind of, we're exposed to everything. What do you come up with now,
How do you find that original voice?
How do you find that original voice, that original sort of sound? And I get excited when I hear new music that really blows me away, like Medicine Boy. BCUC, I don't know if you've checked them out. Bantu Continua Uhuru
I've
Consciousness.
heard of them, actually, yes.
They're just phenomenal. I mean, for me, they're the most South African bands that should be, breaking through at the moment, because they're so different and fresh.
Yes.
And yet they're so rootsy and you're reminiscent of like Fela Kuti and guys like that.
Okay.
But there's definitely something different there, And I think the world is always craving something different. So
it is,
that's how we're going to eventually break through. It's not by how perfect you sound as a rock band, or how you sound exactly like U2 or whatever. You got to come up with your own thing.
Yeah, sometimes the beauty lies in the imperfection of the music, almost like that it's original. And
especially
it's
with rock.
Yeah, especially with rock. And it's the voice of the youth, the generation in many ways, which I suppose hip-hop as well has become now too. It's the X-Factor music that takes you on, takes the establishment on, which rock used to be.
Yes.
Well, that actually answered two of my questions there. I was going to say, what is your advice to young artists coming out there? But I suppose that would be it, originality.
Yeah, just keep it, originality is the way. And it's quite daunting when you look back in your music and you go, actually, I'm not that original. Everything has been done, but it's little things, little clever things. Everything has been done musically. It's the way you package it. It's almost like Photoshop and layers and stuff like that. You can take a blues guitar riff and then put it on an electro kind of beat with some kind of a fretless bass thing going, and you've got something. And it's the way that you package it.
Be creative, yeah.
Being creative.
The world is your oyster.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Cito's going to play live for us after this classic Wonderboom song. This is a song called Something Wrong, and then he's going to play live for us. He's brought his acoustic guitar here. I'm very excited to hear that. We'll be back shortly. You're locked into the Gareth Nelson Show. I am joined by Cito in the studio. I've actually a funny moment here. He was going to play Something Wrong, and then I played it. So I should have asked him beforehand. But he's going to do a cover now of Besame Mucho. So, Cito, when you're ready, please take it away.
All right. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame, bésame mucho, que tengo miedo, mi vida, perderte después. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame, bésame mucho, que tengo miedo, mi vida, perderte después. Quiero tenerte muy cerca, mirarme en tus ojos, verte junto a mí. Piensas que tal vez mañana yo estaré lejos, muy lejos de aquí. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame, bésame mucho, que tengo miedo, mi vida, perderte después.
Wow, that was absolutely brilliant. Goosebump stuff.
Cool, thank you.
That, of course, is a song written in 1940.
That was amazing, brother.
Thank you. Cool.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Wow, that was fantastic. I mean, such an unusual song to do as well. Written in 1940, that song, I think.
Yeah.
It's been done by so many people. Andrea Bocelli,
Yeah,
Frank
it was
Sinatra.
written
I
by a
think.
girl who was 15 at the time,
Yes.
and she'd never had a boyfriend in her life. She never had a love of her life.
Wow.
So it's
And I
quite
think it's,
interesting.
what does it mean? Kiss me a lot, or is it translation? Or
It means kiss me a lot,
kiss me
yeah.
a lot? Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much. Yeah, that was
cool.
absolutely brilliant.
Cool.
Okay, just tell us about future gigs where we can go and watch, catch you. And
That's the best version I've ever heard.
Wow,
it was
thank
absolutely fantastic.
you. Cool.
Best version
Better
I've
than-
ever heard, and it was here at Eden Radio. And you rock, dude.
Thank you, man. So do you.
I hope you can hear.
I hope you can. Yeah, I think you can. I'm hearing you. So.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Thank you, Rourke.
Yeah, please tell us.
Yeah.
future gigs.
So next week we're going to go on a bit of an Easter tour as Wonderboom. We're going to go to Bloem, and we're going to go to Cape Town, and then we're going to do the Lush Festival on
yes.
Easter Sunday, which we're really looking forward to. We've got a big gig coming up at the Rivonia Barnyard on the 7th of April that we're really pushing for. We've joined forces with Le Club. I don't know if you know the Le Club
Yes.
guys. Basically, alternative club scene. Adrian Skiro, yeah.
Wow.
Adrian and I know each other, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're joining forces, and we're having a full-on alternative retro party night at Rivonia Barnyard, and Wonderboom's going to do a special sort of set there as well.
Fantastic.
So that's on the 7th of April, yeah.
7th of April. Okay, guys, you heard that. 7th of April. Don't miss it.
Yeah,
And of
thank
course,
you.
tonight you've got Absinthe tonight.
I've got Absinthe tonight at a Muse Cafe, yeah.
All right, and where can we find you on social media?
So Wonderboom is Wonderboom Band on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Absinthe Band on Twitter and on Facebook. Otherwise, you can look for me on Facebook, Cito, C-I-T-O, or you can look at my real name, which is Martin Raphael Otto, if you want to get in touch with me personally on
Well,
Facebook.
Cito, it's been an absolute privilege having you in the studio today on the Gareth Nelson Show at
Cool.
Eden Radio. And I mean, yeah, we wish you all the best. I look forward to that solo project. So I'm going to nag
thank
you on that.
Yeah,
you know
please
I can
do.
nag.
Thank you. I need some deadlines. you know.
Absolutely, and I mean some more of that as well. That was just
Cool.
brilliant what you just did. Phenomenal.
very
I mean,
much.
goosebump stuff. All right,
Cool.
so thank you so much, Cito, for coming in today on the
Cool,
Gareth
thanks for
Nelson
having
Show.
me, man.
And that's it for me today, guys. So up next is the boss man, Rourke. He's going to be taking you from 2 to 5. We've got
Mark G.
in place of Mark G today.
Who knows where the G-spot is? I don't.
I'm glad somebody does. Coming back from the dead.
With the wonderful Wonderboom cover of Johnny Clegg's Africa. Thank you again, Cito, for coming in today.
Thank you.